Hey everyone, welcome back to Echo Your English. It's really nice to have you here with us. Today we're talking about something simple but very real, stress. The kind of stress you feel in everyday life, not the dramatic movie kind, just that quiet pressure that sits with you, follows you around, and shows up even when you don't expect it.
Yeah, welcome, friends. And if you're listening while walking, cooking, or relaxing, we hope this episode feels like a calm companion. We're going to talk about how stress appears, how it feels in the body, and the small ways we try to cope with it. And of course, while you listen, you'll naturally practice your English in a soft, gentle, podcast-style way.
Exactly. So let's dive in. Stress is something most people experience, even when life seems normal. For me, it often appears first thing in the morning. I wake up, and there's this small heaviness in my chest. Not painful, just heavy. And I think, okay, today is one of those days.
I get that. For me, it's usually my breathing. I notice I'm taking short, quick breaths even when nothing stressful is actually happening. That's my first sign.
It's interesting how the body reacts before the mind even realizes what's going on.
Yes, exactly. The body speaks first. The mind catches up later.
And that's something all of us should pay attention to. Stress doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It appears as tight shoulders, a racing mind, or that tired but not sleepy feeling.
Oh yes, that feeling. When you're mentally tired but physically okay. Your thoughts move slowly, but your worries move fast.
That's such a good description, and I think many of our listeners will recognize it immediately.
Today we want to make this episode feel like a safe, calm space. No pressure, no teaching tone, just a natural conversation that helps you practice English while also understanding your emotions a little better.
So let's start by talking about those first signs of stress, the ones that appear before the real stress begins.
You know, Emily, one of the first signs I notice is this tiny sense of rushing. Even when I'm not in a hurry, my mind feels like it's running a little faster than it should.
Yes, that inner rush. It's like your brain is saying, move, 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 even though you're just making breakfast or brushing your teeth.
Exactly. And it's funny because nothing around me is actually urgent. It's all happening inside.
I think a lot of people will relate to that. For me, the first sign is usually in my shoulders. They rise up slowly throughout the day without me realizing. Sometimes I touch them and think, why am I so tense?
Tense is a great word for learners. It simply means your muscles are tight, not relaxed.
Yes, and you can use it for emotions too, like, I feel tense today.
That's true. Emotions and the body are always connected. Stress doesn't just stay in the mind.
Another sign for me is distraction. When I'm stressed, I can read a whole paragraph and not remember a single sentence.
Oh yes, that mental fog. You're looking at the words, but nothing is going in.
Exactly. And I think that's something many people misunderstand. Stress doesn't always feel like panic. Sometimes it just feels like tired thinking.
Tired thinking. I like that. It's very accurate.
And it's very real. Your brain feels slow, like it needs a moment to catch up.
Speaking of moments, when I notice stress early, I try to pause and ask myself, what's going on? Just that simple question helps.
Yes, naming the feeling is powerful. When you say, okay, I'm stressed, it becomes easier to deal with.
Exactly. The feeling becomes clear instead of confusing.
And clarity is calming, even if the stress is still there.
Definitely. Most people feel worse because they don't understand what's happening. Once they name it, half the battle is over.
And that's what we're trying to do today. Help our listeners notice the early signs before the heavy stress arrives. You know, Ryan, something interesting about stress is how tiny things can suddenly feel big. Not because the thing is big, but because your mind is already carrying a little weight.
Yes, exactly. Like when you can't find your keys for 2 minutes and it feels like the world is falling apart.
Oh, that is such a classic moment. It's not about the keys at all. It's about everything else behind them.
Right. And I think these small triggers are the most common kind of stress. They're simple things: a message you forgot to answer, a task you didn't finish, a plan that changes suddenly.
Yes, and they hit harder when your emotional cup is already full.
Emotional cup. I love that expression. It's not an official phrase, but it describes the idea perfectly. When your cup is full, even one extra drop feels like too much.
Exactly, and learners can use that phrase. It's soft, natural, and easy to understand. It means you have no more space for pressure.
You know, earlier this month, I had one of those days. Nothing went wrong, but everything felt heavy. I opened my laptop and just stared at the screen for a few minutes, like my brain refused to start.
Oh, I've had that moment too. It's like the mind says, nope, not today.
Yes, and the more you push, the harder it feels.
That's because stress doesn't respond well to pressure. When you force yourself, your mind becomes even more blocked.
True, and stress often shows up as frustration at the smallest things. If my computer freezes for half a second, I react like it's a catastrophe.
It's so relatable. When stress is quietly building inside you, even a slow web page can feel personal.
Exactly, and these are the moments when you realize the stress didn't start with the computer. It started long before.
Yes, and recognizing these small triggers helps us understand ourselves better. It helps us slow down before we reach that point where everything feels too much.
And slowing down is something most of us forget to do.
That's why we're talking about it today. A gentle reminder for us and for everyone listening.
You know, something we don't talk about enough is how stress shows up physically. It's not just thoughts or emotions. The body reacts too, sometimes before we even notice.
Absolutely. For me, one of the clearest signs is a headache that comes out of nowhere. I might feel perfectly fine, and then suddenly there's this quiet pressure behind my eyes.
Oh, I get that too. It's like a gentle warning signal.
Exactly. Not strong enough to stop you, but strong enough to remind you something's off.
For me, the big one is restlessness. I can't sit still. I check my phone, walk around the room, open the fridge for no reason, just to do something.
Yes, restlessness is such a common sign. You don't want to do anything, but you also can't relax.
It's that strange in-between feeling.
And another physical sign is tiredness. Not the I need sleep tiredness, but the my mind is exhausted kind.
Right, the tired mind. When even a small decision feels like too much effort.
Exactly. You look at your to-do list and think, I can't even choose where to start.
And learners should know the phrase burned out. It means you're drained, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yes, burnout is when stress has been present for too long without proper rest.
And many people reach that point without realizing it.
Because stress doesn't always arrive loudly. It arrives quietly, little by little. Tight shoulders today, a tired mind tomorrow, a restless evening after that.
And suddenly you realize you haven't taken a real break in weeks.
Exactly, and that's why paying attention to the small physical signs is important. If we catch them early, we can slow down before reaching burnout.
You know, sometimes even drinking a glass of water helps. It sounds too simple, but the body relaxes when it gets the basics.
Yes, water, food, breathing, movement, the simplest things are sometimes the most effective.
And we ignore them because we think dealing with stress needs something big.
But most of the time, the body just needs a moment. You know, one thing I've learned about stress is that you don't need a big plan to deal with it. Most of the time, tiny actions help the most.
Absolutely. People think they need a whole routine. Meditation, exercise, journaling, a perfect schedule. But honestly, just taking one small step can change the whole atmosphere of your mind.
Yes, for me, that small step is simply opening a window. Letting fresh air in gives me an instant sense of space.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Giving your mind space. When I feel stressed, I drink a glass of cold water. I don't know why, but it resets me.
It's grounding. It brings you back to the present moment.
Exactly, and grounding is such a helpful idea. It means doing something simple that brings your attention back to your body instead of your racing thoughts.
One grounding method I use is touching something with texture, like a blanket or my sweater. It sounds small, but it helps you feel connected to the moment.
I love that. For me, it's sound. If I'm stressed, I put on soft music or gentle rain sounds.
Rain sounds are magic. They slow the mind down naturally.
Yes, because stress often makes everything inside feel fast. Fast thoughts, fast breathing, fast heartbeat. And slow sounds help balance that speed.
Exactly. Another small thing I do is make tea. Not because I need tea, but because the process is slow and calming.
Yes, the ritual itself helps. Boiling water, waiting, pouring, breathing.
And learners can use the phrase stress relief. It simply means something that reduces stress. Tea, music, fresh air, a short walk, all of these are small stress relief tools.
Speaking of walks, even 5 minutes outside can completely change your mood.
Absolutely. Walking helps the body move the stress out instead of holding it inside.
And I think the key message here is that you don't need big solutions. You just need simple, gentle moments that remind your mind and body to slow down.
Yes, stress grows in silence and speed. It shrinks in small, calm actions.
Do you know, Emily, I think one thing that helps people deal with stress is having the right words to explain what they're feeling. Sometimes you're stressed, but you don't know how to describe it.
Yes, and when you can describe the feeling, it becomes easier to handle. It stops being this big cloud and becomes something you can understand.
Exactly. Like the phrase rough day. It's so simple, but it captures that feeling when everything feels just a bit too heavy.
Yes, a rough day doesn't mean something terrible happened. It just means the day wasn't smooth, wasn't easy.
Another useful expression is I'm overwhelmed. It means you feel like there's too much to deal with.
And it's a very natural phrase in English. You can say it to friends, coworkers, or even to yourself.
Another one I really like is I need a moment. It's polite, gentle, and clear. You're not saying no to anything. You're just asking for a little time to breathe.
Yes, I use that one a lot. It's a good way to pause without feeling rude.
And then there's mental clutter. I love this phrase. It describes that feeling when your mind is messy with too many thoughts.
Yes, like a room full of clothes on the floor, but inside your head.
Exactly. Mental clutter makes it hard to focus, even on simple things.
Another phrase learners can use is emotional battery. It's not a formal term, but it's very common in modern speech. It means the emotional energy you have for the day.
And when your emotional battery is low, even small tasks feel hard.
Yes, and it's important to notice when that battery is running out.
One last phrase I think is helpful is, I'm doing my best. It's simple, but when you say it, you remind yourself to be kinder.
That's a beautiful one. It's not about perfection. It's about acknowledging your effort.
And effort deserves recognition.
Absolutely. These phrases help you understand your feelings and express them naturally.
And expressing them is the first step to feeling better.
You know, Ryan, talking about emotional batteries reminds me of something that happened a little while ago. I had one of those weeks where everything felt slightly heavier than usual. Not terrible, just heavy. And I kept trying to push through it.
I know that feeling. You keep telling yourself, it's fine, even though it's not.
Exactly. And one evening, a friend asked me, how are you really? Not the usual, how are you, but really? And that question just stopped me for a moment.
It hits differently when someone adds really.
Yes, and for the first time all week, I actually paused and checked in with myself. And I realized I wasn't okay. I was overwhelmed, tired, and my mind was full of mental clutter I hadn't even noticed.
And saying it out loud must have helped.
It did. The moment I said, I'm stressed, it felt like the pressure dropped a little, not completely gone, but lighter.
That's the strange thing about stress. Once you name it, it becomes smaller.
Exactly. And once I acknowledged it, I finally allowed myself to rest instead of pretending everything was fine.
That's such an important lesson. Pretending you're okay doesn't make stress disappear.
No, it doesn't. It just hides it until it grows bigger.
You know, something similar happened to me last month. I was working on a project, and for some reason, every tiny thing felt difficult. Writing one email felt like climbing a mountain.
Oh, I've had those days. Even simple tasks feel heavy.
Exactly, and late at night, I finally stopped and asked myself, why am I pushing so hard today? And I realized I was exhausted. My emotional battery was completely empty, and I didn't even notice.
That moment of honesty makes all the difference.
Yes, the moment you stop forcing yourself, your whole system relaxes.
That's why self-awareness is so important. Stress isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers, and we need to learn to hear the whisper.
Absolutely. The whisper is the warning before the storm.
And listening to that whisper is how we take care of ourselves.
You know, Emily, something I've been thinking about is how we often see stress as a sign of weakness, but in many cases, stress simply means we care.
Yes, that's such an important perspective. Stress doesn't always mean we're doing something wrong. Sometimes it means the thing in front of us matters to us.
Exactly. If you're stressed about work, it usually means you want to do it well. If you're stressed about a relationship, it means the person is important to you.
Yes, stress is like a little emotional alarm that says, this thing matters, pay attention.
And when you look at it that way, it feels softer, less scary.
It does. It becomes something human instead of something negative.
And that's a healthy way to reframe it, to look at the same feeling from a different angle.
Exactly. And I think this helps people be kinder to themselves. Instead of saying, why am I stressed? They can say, I'm stressed because this is important.
That small shift can change everything.
It really can. And there's another phrase I use when I feel overwhelmed. I tell myself I'm doing what I can.
That phrase is gold. It's gentle, realistic, and supportive. It doesn't judge you.
Yes, and it helps you slow down. It reminds you that effort counts, not perfection.
And that's a message many of us forget. We judge ourselves by the results, not the effort.
Exactly. But most meaningful things in life take time. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going.
And keep breathing.
Yes, breathing is underrated. A slow breath can change your whole emotional direction.
You know, I think another helpful idea is this. Rest is not giving up. Rest is part of the process.
Absolutely. Resting doesn't mean you stopped caring. It means you're taking care of yourself so you can continue.
And that's something many people need to hear.
Yes. Stress doesn't disappear when you force yourself harder. It softens when you allow yourself to pause.
And that pause, even a small one, can be the turning point.
You know, Ryan, something I've realized over the years is that we're often kinder to other people than we are to ourselves. When a friend struggles, we say, take a break, you're doing great. But when we struggle, we say, why can't you handle this?
Yes, it's true. We speak to ourselves in a tone we would never use with someone we care about.
Exactly, and it's so unfair. We deserve the same compassion we give to others.
Definitely. And compassion doesn't mean letting yourself be lazy. It means understanding that you're human, not a machine, not a robot, a person with limits.
I love the word limits. Many people think limits are weaknesses, but they're not. They're just part of being alive.
Yes, and respecting your limits is actually a strength. It keeps you from burning out.
And burnout is what happens when someone ignores their limits for too long.
Right. You keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing until you suddenly can't push anymore.
And that moment always feels surprising, even though the signs were there the whole time.
Yes, stress gives early warnings. Tiredness, tension, irritation, overthinking. But we tell ourselves, it's fine. I can manage.
Until we can't.
Exactly. And that's why self-kindness is important. It's not just emotional softness, it's practical. It keeps you healthy.
You know, I have this small rule now. When I start feeling stressed, I ask myself, if my best friend felt this way, what would I tell them? And usually the answer is simple: rest.
That's a brilliant trick. It removes the pressure because suddenly you're not talking to your stressed self, you're talking to someone you care about.
Yes, and it works every time.
My version of that is asking myself, is this a moment for discipline or a moment for gentleness? And surprisingly, most of the time, the answer is gentleness.
That's beautiful. And it's so true. We don't always need discipline. Sometimes we need permission to slow down.
Permission to breathe, permission to pause, permission to say, I'm tired.
And that's not weakness. That's honesty.
And honesty is the beginning of healing.
I think that's a good place to bring our conversation to a close. If you've been listening and you're feeling even a little calmer, that makes me really happy. Stress is something we all experience, but we rarely talk about it in a simple, human way.
Yeah, and I hope today's conversation helped you understand your own feelings a bit better. Maybe you recognized some signs, or maybe you learned a few new expressions to describe what you go through.
And if you're still feeling stressed, that's okay too. Stress doesn't disappear instantly, but talking about it, noticing it, and taking small, gentle steps can make a big difference.
Exactly. And remember, you're doing your best. Whatever your pace is, whatever your situation is, you're trying, and that matters.
It really does. So take a slow breath, relax your shoulders, maybe drink a little water, and just remind yourself that you deserve moments of rest.
And if this episode helped you feel a little lighter, we'd love for you to stay connected with us. Subscribe to Echo Your English so you can join us for more calm, friendly conversations just like this.
We're always here, talking, sharing, and helping you learn English in a natural, gentle way.
Thanks for spending this time with us,
Take care of yourself.
and we'll see you in the next episode.